Tesco Labs is a team of about 30 people now inside Tesco, where we're tasked with building the future of retail. A whole mix of different things that are included in that, but today I'm going to focus on a particular bit, which is really the evolution of what Nick started 22 years ago now, Tesco.com, delivering groceries to the customer's home. We've been doing it for 20 years. It's now, what, a £4 billion business, so it's not too bad. And I'm going to talk about where this goes next, or where I think it's going to go next, based on quite a lot of evidence that we've seen in the market, that you all have seen, and so on. Just a bit of my background. I've been doing this sort of stuff at Tesco for about 7 years now. Before that, I did a PhD in electronics, we don't really need to go into. But this is now, innovation in retail is my life and the thing that I have a massive passion for. The other thing I have a bit of a passion for is sci-fi, which is why I'm going to start with this little clip. I'm a classic stereotypical geek, and we'll revisit that later on today.
Perhaps the professor could use your computer. Please.
Computer? Computer? Ah. Hello, computer.
Just use the keyboard.
The keyboard. How quaint.
There we go. So this is from a clip from one of the Star Trek films, where they go back in time, and they're obviously here in the 70s, maybe early 80s, when the Macintosh was a thing, long before I was born. And they're at the point in Star Trek, obviously, where they talk and they do everything by voice. They just say to the computer, which is this all-encompassing, like omnipotent, omnipresent thing, what they want to do, and it generally does it. And he's gone back in time, and his expectations are so different because of the technology that's around him that he just expects to be able to talk to this Apple Macintosh, because he can't comprehend a world in which you don't talk to things. And I think this is the direction that we're all headed. Because of the growth and the adoption of voice technology at the moment, because of things like Star Trek, where we've seen this version of the future, and now we're starting to build it. It's actually more than 3 years ago now that Amazon launched this thing. Yeah? How many people have got an Alexa or a Google Home? Quite a few, so probably about half the audience. It's a good start. What I would say to all the other guys, if you're here and you're interested in voice shopping and this sort of thing, get one. Yeah, if you haven't already got one, they're like 20 quid when they're on offer. There's no reason, pretty much anymore, to not have one. Especially if you're interested in retail, and especially if you're interested in voice shopping on retail too. So 3 years ago, Amazon launched this. According to the most recent data, which was Kantar from, I think, November, so pre-Christmas, these things were in 10% of UK households. And okay, they launched in the US 3 years ago, but they only launched here about a year ago. So we're talking about an adoption curve here which is far faster than mobile was, and which itself was faster than the internet, which itself was faster than TV and then radio before it. We're on this accelerating pace of change thing, and you've just got to look at like the adoption of, I think Instagram is the fastest, or Snapchat, fastest to get to 100 million users. These things are on that sort of curve. They're not on the sort of curve like 20 years ago where some people had a PC. Some people have never even still got a PC, but now they've all got mobile phones, and most of them have got smartphones. I think that the same thing is going to happen with this. For £20 you can buy one of these, whether it's Google or Amazon, or one of a million other different things that are now on the market that are basically copycats. Just this week, IBM announced that they're going to turn Watson into an actual virtual assistant. You've got Cortana with Microsoft, so you've got all of the heavyweights. Even you could say that things like Facebook with their M sort of concierge system, they're trying to go down this same sort of route. You've got things like the Ling Long Ding Dong from China, real name, that's it in the top left. So you've got Alibaba, Tencent, all the Chinese giants, WeChat, working on similar systems for their market as well. And the explosion of people investing in this is only going to drive that consumer adoption. If you think it was 10% before Christmas, the Echo and the Google Home were two of the biggest selling consumer devices of the Christmas period. They were all having huge numbers of adverts on TV, all setting off everybody's devices in their living rooms as a bit of a side effect. So we don't know the numbers now, but we can probably assume that they're in about 20% of households, I would have thought. Actually, we know from our own data, people that have joined Tesco to their Google Homes and to Alexa, there was a huge spike on Christmas Day. as people got these things out the box and set them up and then started doing things, including shopping, on that first day, that first day experience after unboxing it. So I'm mentioned there that we've been doing a little bit with it, and that's what the next video is going to show you a bit of.
Hey Google, add eggs to my Tesco basket.
I'll add eggs to your Tesco basket.
Hey Google, get more hand wash.
It's on its way.
Hey Google, add AA batteries to my online shopping.
Sure thing. Integrate your Tesco online grocery shop with Google Home through ifttt.com.
There we go. So that was Jess from the labs team in her house doing her shopping by voice by just asking for the things that she needs. I guess, who's done a grocery order in the UK here? Everybody? We assume that we're at an e-tail conference. Everyone's tried that, yeah? If not, you really should. But everyone sort of has this way that they build their basket, yeah? Everyone, they book a delivery, or they, and then they spend all week adding things to their basket. And we've seen this shift over years, and actually, if you saw Nick speak on stage here a few years ago, he talked about the shift between people sitting down on a Sunday night and going through a list of things and doing all their shopping at once, to this sort of browsing and throughout the week using their mobile phone or whatever it might be to add stuff to their basket. So we're already seeing this shift in behavior, and the voice thing takes it to that next level. All you have to do is, when you run out of something, you pour the last bit away, is say to Google or Alexa, it works on both now, that you want to put that thing in your Tesco basket, or you just buy milk. So even if your hands are filthy and you don't want to get your phone out and touch it, it only takes a few words to put that thing in your Tesco basket and then get it delivered. There's a few other clever things it does that we can't currently do through any other channel. So if I say buy milk, then the milk that I buy might be different to the milk that you buy, or the milk that you buy. And what we have to do here then is understand what milk it is that you want. And we do that in a bit of a cheat, really, but we look at the things that you've bought most recently, we look at the things you buy sort of usually, and then the things that you've bought less frequently, and we try and decide which is the milk that you want at that moment based on your recent purchases and your usual purchases. So for me, for example, it's normally 4 pints of semi-skimmed milk, and in fact that's very average. If you were to search on the grocery website for milk, the first result is 4 pints of semi-skimmed milk, because it's the one that most people buy. But when my daughter was a bit younger, and she had whole milk all the time, it would always put 4 pints of whole milk. So it learned and it adapted over time, because it understands that that's the milk I normally buy. So that individual nature of that search result is key in voice, because there's no interface to sort of tell you about the search results. If you search for milk on the Tesco website, you probably get hundreds of results, which isn't really very useful in this scenario, unless you wanted to have some really awkward, like IVR-like experience. Can you imagine, like, say 1 if you would like 1 pint of semi-skimmed milk. Say 2 if you would like 1 pint of full cream milk. Say 3 if you would like 1 pint of skim milk. It very quickly gets boring. And even just to cover off the basics, the things that we sell loads of, you'd still be on about 10 options. So having that personalized search is key. And that's one of the things that we brought to the voice channel first, so that when you say milk, we get you the right kind of milk. And it's pretty good. And I probably do about half of my shopping now through this mechanism. So I get plenty of opportunity to feedback and to understand how it's working. And I think it works pretty well, but I do shop, I do most of my shopping at Tesco, and I do most of it online as well. So that helps the system understand what it is that I buy normally and lets it adapt. You obviously get into interesting areas when you look at people who shop across different retailers, for example. You wouldn't necessarily have the data, but some of the stuff coming out the back of the GDPR regulations might help that too, so we'll have to see. So I mentioned my daughter in the milk sort of conversation. This is her, Sophie. She was 2 about 2 months ago. And if we go back to the beginning and talk about expectations, yeah, Sophie can say Alexa now. She's grown up in a house where we have always had voice control and voice assistants available in certainly all the major rooms, right? Because like we've talked about before as well, I'm that classic early adopter geek. I have all the things that you would expect, you know, a 30-year-old man to have. Perhaps not one with a family, but I can do all of these things, you know, in my house, and I do. You know, I can turn the lights on and off, play music, control various different bits and pieces, control the temperature and this sort of stuff, and do the shopping. And you look at, again, you look at the sort of the stats, what the wider world does. Music tends to be the entry drug on these sorts of voice devices. But from the customers that we've spoken to that have used the Tesco thing, they do music, they do kitchen timers, that's another popular one. And then the third thing they use it for is shopping, grocery shopping. So this is one of the reasons that we think this is a really big trend that we're really keen to keep pushing. But we go back to Sophie, and like I say, Sophie has lived in a world where this has always been possible. You know, her expectations are that there is, you know, she does know what a light switch is, but she also knows it can be done by speaking to it. Luckily, she can't say Alexa or Hey Google clearly enough yet that it understands what she's saying. But she always looks around and watches the lights spinning on Alexa when somebody says Alexa. You know, she knows that it's there, she knows that it does stuff. And her expectations growing up are going to be completely different. You know, you remember the video a few years ago of the, I think it was like a 1-year-old trying to swipe a magazine because they got so used to the iPad. You know, it's that level of expectations that's changing here. And, you know, like every 2-year-old, Sophie will try and swipe the TV and put her fingerprints all over it. But she has this different expectation now that there's this thing that she can talk to that will do stuff. She probably doesn't realize that it will bring her shopping yet, but it's only a matter of time. She also doesn't realize, if you think about it, what a supermarket is. She's only really been 2 or 3 times, because all of the shopping just arrives at the door. A man brings it in a tray, puts it in the kitchen for us. You know, so she doesn't even really, you know, have that experience in her life. Now we did take her and use the Scan As You Shop thing a few weeks ago, and she loved pushing the button and making it go beep. Brilliant. But then when we took it off her at the end, she was furious. So that was quite funny. She really did not want to leave that little thing behind. So that is, you know, what we think will be a massive part of the future of shopping because of this, and because of this. The two forces, really. One is the adoption curve of the technology at the moment is rampant, and I think if you don't get onto this platform, you'll get left behind. And the second thing is, as, you know, children growing up with this understand, you know, and expect it, we're going to need it there as a channel, you know, in the same way that we do with mobile. And, you know, nobody doesn't have a mobile website at the minimum these days, if not an app, if you've got the users to do it. I think voice will come into it. I think it's particularly convenient, though, for things like groceries. You know, you might not necessarily want to buy a dress or a more considered purchase on this sort of device, but for groceries, we think it fits really nicely. Adding displays as well is something that's quite interesting, and something that Google Home had out of the box, but we've only seen Amazon launch recently. In fact, the one on the right here is the Echo Show, which only became available in the UK a couple of months ago, just before Christmas. This brings you into a whole extra dimension in the kitchen, not just putting stuff in your basket, which is quite straightforward, you know, just basically a single command, but things like show me a video on how to cook this thing. You know, getting into more instructional stuff, getting into more exploratory stuff. How do you do a bit of inspiration in the kitchen and not necessarily just, you know, reordering the basics? But there's a whole other area to work with, and something that we haven't started exploring that much yet. The thing that more people do is things like, you know, just getting to play a video on YouTube. Although there has, you might have seen in the press, been huge wars about whether Google will let Amazon show YouTube videos on the Echo Show, because Amazon won't let Google sell some of their products on the Amazon store. So there's a bit of politics going on at that level. But if you have the Google Home and you have a Chromecast and you have a TV in your kitchen, which the significant number of the population do, you can say, hey Google, show me somebody making you know, a chicken korma. And seconds later, there's a video of somebody making a chicken korma. So you can follow along, you know, combining that with the ability to add ingredients to your basket, and potentially in the future to get stuff delivered really quickly. At the moment, if you live inside London, you, through Tesco Now, we can deliver to you in 1 hour. It's reasonably expensive, but you could be mid-recipe, say another command to your Home Assistant, and it will then deliver that thing to you, you know, before you get to the point in the ingredients at which you need that particular thing. So you get this quite lazy attitude, potentially, but things at your fingertips if you're willing to pay for it, to enable this different experience in the kitchen to what you're expecting today. So I think displays do have a part to play, but for some things, like grocery shopping, not that big a deal, I think, because just the voice-only aspect is interesting. This is the other thing where the voice sort of disappears into the background in more of a Star Trek way. This is a light bulb on the left-hand side that has a microphone and a speaker built into it. And there's not really anyone getting huge traction on the market yet with this sort of thing. But imagine, if you think every room, you need somewhere that's got power, somewhere that's not blocked by other devices or other bits of furniture, that you can hear something. The light bulb socket in the middle of the room is dead easy. You plug it in, you turn it on, you've got power. Companies like Philips, Philips, one of the biggest light bulb manufacturers in the world, already putting resources into getting connected light bulbs. Putting speakers and microphones in them wouldn't be that hard. And from that point, you've got this Alexa or Google or Cortana or whatever you might want in every room of your house that you want it to be in, always listening, always on, without having to have a separate device sat on the side somewhere. Just integrated into the fabric of your home without any need to retrofit anything complicated. The Fire Stick in the middle, again, one of the biggest selling consumer devices in the UK from an electronics point of view, because it kind of makes your old TV smart. But this also now brings Alexa into your living room, for about 30 quid. And then this thing. Really, Siri was the first voice assistant of the modern era, when Apple launched it a few years ago. And it's probably fallen a little bit behind now, but if you look at something like Android and you look at Google Assistant, it's on every device, and it's just there on the home screen, and you can just say, "Hey Google," and it does stuff. And with Siri, you can say, "Hey Siri," and it does stuff. So even though this current trend is all about these dedicated devices that are, in the kitchen, you buy them to do one thing, people are carrying around things that they speak to all the time. The number of people who send voice messages to each other through WhatsApp keeps on growing, and Snapchat and other things too. So using voice on your phone seems to be coming back into fashion. Yeah, there was a while at which, phoning somebody was the last thing you did on a mobile phone, but phoning somebody still doesn't seem to quite have caught up yet. But talking to your phone and getting it to send a message seems to be growing as well. And through the devices, we've got Apple, they've now got their HomePod in the home as well. This ecosystem is just growing and growing and growing. Which brings me on to my next point, I think, almost. Right, we'll talk about ecosystems next. So just before we talk about ecosystems and the general importance of being connected, I wanted to talk about if this, then that. So this is a bit about rules-based shopping, and this is a bit different to the voice stuff, but it's related because this is how we ended up on the voice channels with reasonably little effort in the first place. So more than a year ago now, we launched on if this, then that, and traditionally, anybody use if this, then that? This is normally a lower number of hands. There's a few, that's good. So if this, then that historically let you connect multiple accounts on the internet together. So things like if you change your Facebook profile picture, also change your Twitter profile picture. Every photo you get tagged in Facebook, save it in your Google Drive. All those sorts of things. And there's about, I'm not sure how many actually anymore, 350 or so partners on this site where you can join these things together. And we were the first retailer to launch on this platform to allow you to actually do something. There was a few that had price alerts and things on there before, but we added the ability to put stuff in your basket. And you've got some examples on the screen of different things that people were doing before they were using voice to put things in their basket. So you've got if the price of a product changes, send me an email, or the most popular was automatically put a product in your basket when it drops below a particular price. Really popular, really transparent in terms of pricing and stuff. You could text yourself particular phrases and it would add particular things to your basket. This wasn't doing it quite as cleverly as how I described earlier with the voice search. This was just, you would say, this is the milk I want, and if I say the word milk, this is what I want you to put in my basket. And you could also do some basic subscription stuff, so maybe every Thursday, put 4 pints of milk in my basket, get that repetitive stuff out of the way. There was some crazier things too. You could do, if you hit your Fitbit target, buy cake. Or if you had a birthday coming up in your calendar, make sure you bought champagne or something. There was a lot of champagne and wine ones actually for the if the product drops in price, please put it in my basket as well. Although my boss Angela, who Nick knows, ended up with quite a lot of frozen prawns through the same sort of rule as well, which is quite funny. So some of these things, don't always trigger in exactly the way that you expect them to, but it lets you build stuff that you can think of. It lets customers be creative. And okay, IF is a bit of an early adopter platform at the moment, but it has, they've got 350 partners on board. The way our whole voice thing started was, the price thing was the most popular when we first launched this, But then, even before Amazon Echo launched in the UK, people were importing them into the UK from America, myself included, and people were adding Tesco to Alexa and Google Home, well, pre-Google Home even existing, I guess, and they were saying, okay, Alexa, put milk in my Tesco basket, and that would put the particular milk that they had set up into their basket. And for every different product they wanted to add to their basket, they had to create a new rule. Yeah, so this was not straightforward. But we saw, hundreds of people doing this before Alexa even launched in the UK. On average, they would add like 10 different things to their list. And it was generally those sorts of staples: milk, bread, cheese, eggs, that sort of stuff. And they were setting up rules for each individual product. So even though we weren't making it easy, Alexa wasn't making it easy, it was worthwhile because it made their lives easier and it helped them do their shopping. When Google Home launched, they launched a much better integration onto IFT that let us pass the search variable basically through to Tesco. So the word milk, then we could then search for milk and deliver the relevant milk for the customer, and that's where it really started taking off. And then actually not long after Google Home launched that functionality, Alexa launched it too. So if you have an Amazon Echo and you put stuff in your shopping list, the Alexa shopping list, you can mirror that into your Tesco basket. And it goes from just generic words like milk to that 2 pints of full cream milk or whatever it is that you would usually buy. So there's a really nice flow there between the two. And IFT was the way that we got there. The other thing that's in IFT, though, is this whole world of home appliances. And when it comes to the less interesting stuff that you buy on the internet, things like your dishwasher tablets, your washing machine powder, all that sort of stuff, these are the ones that I normally pick on the most. One of the things that IFT allows you to do, 6 of the major washing machine manufacturers are already on this platform, and they all have triggers in the IFT world that says every time the dishwasher is switched on, do something. So it's quite straightforward for us then to jump into a world where every time your dishwasher or your washing machine is switched on, to take 1 tablet away from the number that we think you have. Yeah? And this has been going on in my house now for a couple of years. So I have not put dishwasher tablets in my own basket for ages, because the dishwasher does it itself. In fact, my dishwasher isn't even Wi-Fi connected, even though I am that guy who would have the Wi-Fi dishwasher. Couldn't get that one past the budget committee, let's say. So in my house, we have a normal dishwasher, but I've managed to instrument it through the electricity it uses. And from that, we get the signal every time the dishwasher is on, take 1 off the number of tablets it thinks it has. When it gets down to the threshold, which is the average number of tablets that I use a week, according to my historical data, then it just puts more in the basket, because I get a delivery about every once a week, every 7 to 10 days or something, which is fairly average. So just sticking it in your basket, not having to think about it, is really nice, really straightforward. And you don't really have to worry about dishwasher tablets. I don't worry about it anymore. And there's a whole load of other things we can do in that same space for, like I say, the less interesting areas of the shopping basket. We just want to automate it so that we can save customers time, because that's what all of this is really about, right? All of what we're doing here is helping customers save time, helping them do their shopping a little bit easier, so that they can go about their lives and have fun. Let's be honest, no one loves grocery shopping, right? It's not, especially for things like dishwasher tablets. You just buy the one that's on offer. Normally, that's what the category behavior looks like. Sorry if there's anyone from Reckitt here, but that's life, yeah? So I think building this ecosystem and having this capability to connect into anywhere so that you can buy your shopping is really important. And it's something that Nick has to take some of the credit for, because the API platform at Tesco, where you can do this sort of thing, started off 8 years ago as a project that Nick did, so that you could then enable there to be a mobile app. We were the first ones to launch the transactional mobile app. We were the first ones to launch the voice system on the top of this, and we were, well, I'm the first one to have my dishwasher tablets being ordered automatically. But hopefully we can bring that to more people in the future, because that's what Tesco's really good at, democratizing this stuff, bringing it to lots of people to make their lives easier. So that's pretty much all I was going to speak about today.